What's up? Have you ever had a dream and you wake up and you just can't figure out like what the hell is your brain trying to tell you? Or have you had a dream and thought maybe, just maybe I'm psychic? Maybe I know the future? Well, today here, look, we're going to talk about do dreams mean anything? This is the Existential Stoic podcast. I'm dating everybody, Randy. What's up, Randy?
Yo, Danny. Or you
So
have
do
a
you,
dream about, or you have a dream about someone of the opposite sex who you're kind of attracted to, and you want to tell them that maybe you had a dream about them, but you're not sure if you want to tell them you had a dream about them. Hmm.
it's like a classic sitcom trope too,
What does it
you know?
mean? Yeah.
What does it all mean? Is it trying to tell me I like somebody? Maybe. Yeah. It's interesting, Do
Interestingly,
you dream
no,
a lot, actually?
no, no. I struggle to remember my
No?
dreams. No, very rarely do I dream. I would say like maybe one out of 3 to 5, maybe one time a week do I remember my dreams. I mean,
Wow.
I could have them on nights when I don't know
That
them, but
is
maybe like one time a week.
I've heard we always have them because they say, oh, from what I remember reading, and I could be wrong, this is probably a while ago, but like I remember reading reports that like, or a study that said like they think that we have them whenever we're in REM sleep. And that's when you get that body paralysis, and that's when you will see people like move a little and stuff. We
Like
just
when
don't
they
always
look like a
recall
puppy
them.
running in
So
their sleep.
yeah. Dude, when my dog dreams, it cracks me up every time because he barks. Like he'll be like chasing something and he barks, but his bark sounds like it's never his like real bark. It's like this puppy bark. It's like the kind of thing. It's so funny, dude. Every time it cracks me up. And they dream like every time they fall asleep. It's like instant. I think, man, I wish I had that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, they're funny.
But
Yeah, I dream kind of a lot. I have, you know, it's like definitely more than a couple times a week. I remember them. I also get sleep paralysis fairly regularly and always
mm,
have. And that's like more, I would say, hallucinating. I mean, it feels real, like literally that it's happening to you. And sometimes when I wake up from that, like I can't go back to sleep because sleeping is like not a good, like it just seems terrifying at the time. And
hmm
like, um, because it felt so real, it's like you just don't want to. It's weird,
yeah.
but they're usually pretty like bad dreams.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Yeah, anyway.
they say that the dreams can reveal the subconscious or the unconscious. And sometimes I see that because I've been trying to write down dreams when I remember them, but it always happens where like I'll wake up and I'm super tired, and it's like the middle of the night. I wake up, I'm super tired, and of course I'll remember the
Yeah,
dream then, and I'll be like, I don't want to write it down now. I want to go back to sleep, and then I go back to sleep, and then in the morning I don't remember.
and then it's gone. Yeah, it's funny. Like if you do that, if you do that journaling practice, 'cause I've done that before, and I know a lot of people who have. You have to literally write it down the second you're awake, like before you, because like the more you wake up, the more like it's weird, the more it fades. It's
hmm
like really like your brain like dumps that memory. It's almost like it's like RAM storage, where like it doesn't
hmm
last, and like
Yep,
as
cash
soon as you wake
stone.
up, it just slowly gets tossed in the trash.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I do think some of them definitely have like I think it's tricky with dreams because I think there's a tendency to want to interpret all of them, and I think probably a lot of them are garbage and probably don't mean anything, and it's just random. But I do think there definitely are some that you can see a clear link to things you're going through. Like, I noticed like when I was suffering from depression and stuff, or like dealing with deaths, like people close ones that died, like a lot of times those dreams I noticed would be like more poignant and focused and like clearly meant something. Like a lot of them, like especially after like my friends died and stuff, it would be like, like I after like a certain amount of time I noticed I would start dreaming of like just hanging out with them and like like stuff like that. So it was like kind of like nice in a way. It was like because you're thinking about them a lot. That's probably what it is. So I think there is stuff
hmm
like that. And then like like you said, like if you like somebody, or like big goals in your life or big stresses, I think sometimes trigger
mm
them. Like who hasn't had the dream of like showing up to the test unprepared or without your clothes or something stupid, like that one. And I think
Yeah.
it's just like, that fear of like failure, right? Or that fear, that stress of like, you're not going to make it.
hmm Yeah,
Yeah.
I do have a
It's weird.
couple like recurring dreams. Oh, also another thing is most of the dreams I do remember are not good. They're like, I think that's probably
Yeah.
why I don't remember dreams because almost all the dreams I remember are bad. They're like bordering on nightmares. So I'm just like, I don't want to remember them. And yeah.
Well, that's the funny thing. Those are the ones that I remember most too, because I think they're the most like in your face, like you can't help but remember them because it's so intense.
Dude, like I have this
Yeah.
one recurring one where I'm just like for one reason or another, either like the road turns upside down or like goes into a swamp or whatever, but I'm always stuck in a car that's sinking in a water full of crocodiles. Like it's
Yeah.
the worst dream ever.
Every
And
bad
I
thing
and I
is
have to either
stacked up
drown
top.
or swim out through the crocodiles. It's terrible.
That is terrible. I'll tell you then. Okay, so yeah, this happens a lot. So when I had a recurring dream or a recurring like hallucination from sleep paralysis where I was getting I couldn't breathe basically is what happens. And like so it either was somebody in some instances, iterations of it, I guess I should say, somebody's trying to cover me with a blanket and like suffocate me.
Mm,
In another one, somebody was trying to strangle me. They're very insane and very and feel real because like, it's like you can't move.
yeah.
So it's yeah, horrible. And I remember them very clearly. It's not,
Mm.
yeah, it's weird.
Did you have, when you
Yeah,
were a
it's very
kid, did you
strange.
have like an experience where you lost the ability to breathe or something?
Nope.
See, see,
But
like,
it's funny. I noticed it happen. Those generally happen when I'm not feeling when I have like a really congested because this happened recently because I was the allergy season started
mm-hmm.
and I was having a hard time breathing and my nose would feel clogged up. And so like that I think is what triggers it. Then the experience that happens. It's really
Mm,
weird.
yeah. I
But I mean like
kind of,
it's a there's a direct connection.
yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
sorry.
I think a lot of, I mean, well, anyways, I had a kind of an experience when I was a child where I almost drowned. And then I used to do
Ah,
like free diving where you hold your breath for a long time. And I stopped doing it because there were a couple experiences where I was underwater and I got the feeling of like the same feeling of when I almost drowned. And I was just like, you know what? This isn't fun anymore. I'm done.
nope. I can see why that would lose its appeal real quick. Well, that's what I've always wanted. Because have you read Freud's interpretation of dreams,
Hmm.
which obviously is not
Hmm.
valid anymore, but yeah. Um,
But he was wrong in so
it's
many interesting ways.
he was wrong in a lot of interesting ways. And even though he was wrong in a lot of what he said, broadly speaking, he still did
Okay,
he moved things along.
I also don't think he was that wrong. So like everybody criticizes him because he thinks like the whole Oedipus complex and everything revolves around sex. But you also have to look back at that time. They were like the most sexually oppressed culture almost ever. So,
That's true. And it could have been accurate for his time, maybe not for us, but like, yeah, I mean, times change, right? So it's
mhm.
like to say that he was completely wrong might not be, it might be misapplying his theory to now rather than thinking then. That's a good point. They really were. They were super repressed. Like, I mean, like, so it would make sense that that would be like a lot of your dreams and a lot of your thoughts would be focused on that. And
Mhm.
it also, too, like young people, that is, like, think about like when you're in high school and stuff, that is true. A lot of
Dude,
your, because your hormones and
still.
stuff, like a lot of it is, yeah, right? Like, that, especially then, but definitely still now. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's like, but it's funny because I think that's true for like I think that's true for a lot of people, especially at that age. So like it makes sense. He wasn't like it's interesting though, because I don't know, do you think they all mean something? Like all of them?
I think there's a
Remember
reason
dreams?
for all of them. Like I think that what I've been doing when I remember my dreams and I actually write them down is I try and trace them back to what could potentially be causing that because I just look at it as a signal from my subconscious. It doesn't actually mean anything, but my subconscious is just like has this that it wants to get out or be made conscious.
That's funny. That's how I always thought of them too. It's like there's some reason that's like the catalyst, but then like the way I always thought of it is then like consciousness in your brain just like work up something that
Mhm.
sort of loosely fits whatever that you know what I mean? Whatever that like you're stressed about like failing. So they work up a thing about failing an exam or something or not being prepared, right? You're pining over someone, so they work up something over loss or whatever. Yeah, I do.
Yeah,
That's the way I look at it.
it'll always happen where you'll be watching something or you'll be reading something before going to sleep, and then that'll end up in your dream. And it's like, oh, well, clearly, because that was on my mind before I went to sleep, that was in there. But I think in the same way, it's like our subconscious stuff is the stuff that we don't consciously recognize is on our mind, but it's there and that can crop up in dreams. So I've been trying to kind of connect that and guess why these things are showing up. I
That's a
actually
good
think
idea.
now that
Kind of
crocodiles are my
unlock their
power animal.
subconscious stuff. Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
nice.
hmm
Crocodiles are good animals.
I know
They're
they're
very
pretty
good.
strong. I wouldn't want to
Hmm.
mess with one. They're
They've
like
also
literally
like they haven't had to
pre-dinosaurs.
evolve in like millions of years.
Dude,
Yeah,
they were around
they
before
haven't had to
dinosaurs
evolve,
and they haven't changed. Yeah.
and they're
Apex
still
predator.
kicking ass.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Seriously.
really,
Yeah.
it's crazy. Did
hmm
have you ever had dreams where you, like that, like you dream something then it happens, where it's almost like deja vu, or
Mm.
like
hmm
maybe a little bit of like what did Philip K. Dick call them, precogs?
Yeah, precognition. Yeah. I think I
Yeah,
have had those. I can't remember any recently, but I think I have had some stuff like that. I'm always
I'm
curious
pretty
about
curious.
that stuff because when you have like a precognition and then it happens and you have a precognition, you're like, ooh, this could happen. And then it happens, you always remember that. But if you have a precognition and then it doesn't happen, you kind of forget it.
Yeah, yeah. So here's the thing though. Okay, so we're gonna digress slightly. There's this guy in the US, they called him, I think they called him the American Nostradamus sometimes or something, where he predicted a bunch of stuff. This was back in like I think it was early 1900s, like 30s or 40s, I think. I forget his name, and I'll have to look it up. And that's gonna bother me. But anyway, he learned to put he might have even been later than that. But anyway, he learned to put himself into a trance. And so he would like, basically meditate, put himself in a trance state, and then he would like he told people how to heal themselves. He predicted events that actually happened. He'd all this stuff. And the way he described it, if I remember correctly, was like that like his when he was in that state, like he could recognize like or like he could intuit in a sense like all the relationships happening in a much faster way, broader way, and therefore see what the result would be. Like if you think of everything as being like causally determined, right? If we could be aware of all the causal factors, we could predict the next moment. It wouldn't be hard. We just have to know all the facts of the present, all the laws, and then predict the next moment. So something like that. And I think I've always thought that maybe there is something to that. Like when we're in that, like in the right space, we're like tuned in and we
hmm
can kind of know what's going to happen in a way.
Oh, dude, I believe it 100%. I'm like way woo-woo out there when it comes to if something is not proved by science, I'm like, well, then I probably believe it because I've gone down the whole science rabbit hole.
I'm definitely
And
up.
yeah, I mean, science is good at stuff that science does, but anything that it can't prove, it just ignores. And that just can't be true. Like it's just ridiculous. It's like, well, if our thing
Yeah.
doesn't test it, then it ignores it. And it's kind of crazy. So
You know
like,
what?
mm,
No, I was going to say people forget that it's an interpretation.
mhm.
It's a way of looking at events and interpreting events, and like it's a construct that we created. So like, yeah, of course it's
Well,
not perfect.
so
It's
like,
good, like you said, it is very good at what it does because we've gotten lots of stuff from it. But like, there's a lot of stuff that it just can't handle. Like,
yeah,
and
so
we still
like
don't know how to explain consciousness for God's sake.
I know. So like you know how this whole like injury thing and the psychosomatic nature of pain and everything that we've been talking about recently. Well, like it reminded me of back when I was in
Yeah,
veterinary school. Back when I was in veterinary school, we would whenever we would study a disease and we would learn like what all the symptoms were of it, people were always convinced that they had that disease. Like half the class would always be convinced they had whatever disease we were studying in dogs and cats. And it's crazy. And the same stuff goes on in medical school. And you know, can't define it with science, but it's just because our brains do stuff. Like our brains make us feel. I mean, you ask anyone like imitate someone
yeah,
who's depressed, and they'll be like slump shoulders and their face, but and it's like imitate somebody who's
yeah.
feeling great, and they'll be like, yeah, hey, hey. But it's like our mind is able to do all these things, but we don't give it credit because it's not. We think, oh, well, if they're depressed, then they have this chemical thing in their brain. And it's like, well, maybe that's a symptom of the depression that's caused by something else. Yeah. So, anyways, I digress.
Yeah.
We're back
No,
on dreams.
psychosomatic stuff is interesting, but I think that makes sense though, because but that shows the power too of the mind, I think, which is also because that's also why I think dreams can be so impactful to people in the same way that we can also cause ourselves to feel ill, which it makes total sense too with the like when you're talking about like vet school and stuff and people like thinking they have it, because if you're reading about these diseases too, I mean, anyone that's ever been on WebMD knows like what, like 99% of things, it's like the same symptoms. It's like
Yeah.
lethargic, possible headaches, possible sore
Yeah.
throat. Like it's all the same stuff. So
Yep.
you could have
Exactly.
anything, you
Exactly.
know?
Yeah.
Remember when WebMD first came out, dude? I knew so many people that were like, dude, I definitely have this. And it's like, I
Right?
looked it up.
Can
Yeah.
you imagine? Can you
Yeah,
even
dreams are
like? It's
interesting, man.
hard to fathom that there was a time when people actually trusted doctors. You know, before
I
WebMD,
know,
there was a
right?
time.
And then we learned all the seedy details about them, and now nobody trusts them.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, I
anyways,
know.
anything else about
I
dreams?
know. I don't feel like I don't trust them anymore. Just that they're interesting. I find them very interesting. And I think I agree with you, though. I didn't know we both agreed so readily on this, but like, I think it's like trying to look back and find that reason that was the catalyst. I think that's the right way to interpret them.
Hmm. Yeah, and
I
if we
agree with you
agree,
there.
that's got to be the
Yeah.
correct
So
answer.
that's it then, I guess, right? We're good?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Don't worry about Don't even look up anything. You're good. You don't even need to worry about any more studies, nothing, you're done. And that's why
Mhm.
you listen to the Existential Stoic podcast. If you like this episode, please like, share, subscribe, leave a review. That helps us out a lot. You can check us out on YouTube or wherever you get podcasts. We'll be back later this week with another episode. Until then, though, later, Andy.
Later, Danny.